Okay, year nine. Let's have a look at the website we're going to build. So this is it here. Let me just make it a little bit bigger. You'll actually see it's responsive a fair bit. Okay, not completely. I didn't have enough time to do that, but let's have a look. We've got a navigation bar up top. We've got a couple of links, uh, some headings, an iPhone image, which we'll talk about in a little bit in a second. We've also got a trailer and we've got an image gallery and we've got a contact form and then a footer, which I haven't finished yet. And the navigation bar is actually, we can click on it to go to each section as well, which is good. So they're with anchor points, and I'll show you guys how to do all that. And and also you'll notice there's a couple of little animations as well in terms of hover over states. And with this iPhone here, it's not just an image. We've actually overlaid a table, and there are apps. And obviously, you guys can put your own apps in there and link them if you want. When you click on it, it takes you somewhere else, possibly, but these are all there as well. So that's what we're going to be doing. Now, this will take us a while to do. And the first part of this tutorial is going to be us being able to understand how coding works and setting up our environment before we actually start coding and getting HTML and CSS code in there to eventually create this page here, this one page. And, if you guys are really liking this, then what we can do is continue doing our websites this way. And we can incorporate animations and things like that, which is a really cool way of doing websites these days. Okay, so I'll just show you the coding that we will eventually do to create this page. So this is our HTML page, and this is our CSS page up here, different tab. So I'll just show you. And so this is the HTML page, and over here is our CSS. So this is what is styling our website. So everything that is styled here, for example, the background color, the color of the navigation bar, the size of things, the font colors and stuff like that, that is all done in the CSS. So the HTML document tells us what to put on the page, and the CSS document tells us how to style it and what it's going to look like. So that's what we are going to end up with. Now, let me close these down. You are going to need, well, you don't have to, but it is advantageous if you use Visual Studio Code. And the reason is because it actually color codes your coding, okay? So you don't actually need Visual Studio Code. And to be honest, when I built this website yesterday, I created it without Visual Studio Code. And I'll just show you, if you use Notepad or you use text editor on a Mac, this is basically what you see. And this is how I coded the website yesterday using a couple of tutorials and W3 Schools. And this is what it looks like. Now, the trouble is if you do coding just using text editor, you're not going to see the color coding with certain things. So you might forget to close off a code, and that might impact the next thing you do and so on. So that's why it's really important. And I thought the best program to use would be Visual Studio because it's available on PC and Mac. So make sure you download that before you get started. Okay, so VS Code or Visual Studio Code, go straight to that. I've also linked this on eDiary. Install this, make sure you have it before we get going. This is another website that we're going to be using quite a bit. It's called W3 Schools. Okay, W3 Schools. And basically it is everything you need in terms of doing HTML code and CSS code all the way through JavaScript and doing things like Bootstrap and React website scripting. So great resource, W3 Schools, and we're going to be using it a lot throughout this tutorial. Okay, well, let's get started. I'm assuming you have downloaded Visual Studio Code. So if you have, what I would like you to do is obviously open it up. Now, the first time you open it up, it might ask you to set permissions and things like that to certain folders. So if you are up to that stage, that's what you want to do. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder on the desktop. So I'm going to go File, New Folder, and when you create this folder, I want you to call it Website, and in that folder, what we're going to do is set up another folder called Images. Now, on eDiary, I've linked all the images you will need for this tutorial. So if you download all of those images from eDiary and then place them into this folder called Images. So I've got all the images here, so I'm just going to drag and drop these images straight in here. Okay, so these are the images that we're going to be using for the tutorial. So a couple of app icons. So get all of those in to your images folder. Now, the next thing we need to create are two files here. We need to create a HTML file and we need to create a CSS file to style our HTML document. Now, like I said before, you can create this on a Mac or PC by just opening up Notepad or text editor and saving it. But what we're going to do, we're actually going to be using VS Code. So if you have VS Code open, what we want to do is we want to go to File, New Text File. And what it's going to ask us now is what language do you want? So I'm going to click on language, and the first file we want to create is a HTML file. So I'm going to select HTML. Now, the next thing we're going to do is also go File, New Text File. And this time we're going to go select a language. And the language we want is CSS. So I'm going to select CSS. So we've got a HTML file and we've got a CSS file open. What we want to do is save these. So I'm going to go up to File and click on Save. It's going to ask me where I want to save it. Now I'm going to save it into that folder that I created, the website folder, and I'm going to put it in the root folder. So I'm not going to put it inside the images folder. I'm going to put it inside the website folder, and we're going to rename this, and we're going to call it index. Now you can call it whatever you want. You can call it homepage if you want or something like that. But the first page of every website is always called index. Now the reason for that is because when you go to a website, for example, www.apple.com, the web browser looks for a website file or a HTML file called index, and that index file is always the first file that loads. Okay, so you can always change that, but by default, that's what it is. So we're just going to call it index.html, and we're going to hit save on that. Okay, our index file has been saved in there. We're now going to do the same thing for our CSS file. So let's go up to File, Save. So make sure you've got it selected and then go File, Save. It should be asking us where we want to save the CSS file, and we want to save it in the same folder. So the same folder you created. Now this time, we're going to call it style.css. Okay, you can call it whatever you want. Now remember, CSS files style the HTML files, and that's why I've called it style, but you can call it whatever you like. Okay, excellent. So we've got an index.html file, and we've got a style.css file. Now there's nothing in there, there is no code. So if I was to go to the folder that we just created, you can actually see that the HTML file, it's got a Google Chrome logo or maybe a Safari logo, basically, if you double click on this file, it's going to want to open up in a web browser. And you can actually see there is nothing in our website right now because we don't have any code in there. So let's start and let's put a little bit of code in here just to get started. Now, I'm not going to write the setup. We're just going to copy it from W3 Schools. Okay, now the code that we want, if we click into HTML, we're just going to scroll down a little bit, and this is the code we're going to copy. Okay, this is the code we're going to copy. It is literally the setup code that will make sure that that document is considered a HTML file document. So let's copy this code, and making sure we're pasting it in the HTML file and not the CSS file, we're going to just paste that in here. Okay, let's zoom in and let me explain what is going on this page. Okay, so this is just telling the document that you are a HTML file. We've got a HTML tag, and everything has to go within this HTML tag. So this is the start of the HTML tag, and here is the end of the HTML tag. So if you write code under here, it will not show up on the website because it is outside of the start and end tags. Okay, there is a start and end tag for everything. So that is the start tag for HTML. That is the end tag for the HTML document. Here is the start tag for our header, and here is the end tag for our header. Now, headers do not show up on the website. They're more to connect scripts and things like that. And what we will be doing within our header is connecting our style sheet eventually to our HTML document. And I'll show you guys that later on. What we might do is just change the title of our website. So we'll call this Year 9 website. You can call it Apple website if you want, because that's what we're building at the moment. It's completely up to you. Now, typically what happens is when you go to a website, this name here is what typically will show up here. Okay. Not always, but typically the metadata, it pulls it from the header. Okay. So that is your header. That's the opening tag and the closing tag. So any kind of scripts you want to put in there, typically you would put it in between these two header tags. This is the body. So this is your opening code for your body, your opening tag, and this is your closing tag. So everything within these two tags will show up on your website. So now that we've got some code in there, you can actually see we've got, oops, I've scrolled out. You can actually see we've got two lines of code. We've got an opening tag for a heading and a closing tag for a heading. So that must mean that this is going to be a heading. We've got a P tag and a closing P tag, and P tags are used for writing on your website, so paragraphs. So right here, we've got a heading and we've got a paragraph within our two body tags. Let's see what it looks like on our website. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go over to our HTML document. I'm just going to refresh this page, and there is the heading and there is the paragraph. Okay, so basically going into your folder and opening up the index.html file, double clicking on it. If it didn't open up in Google Chrome, you can always go open with and select Google Chrome or select Safari, whichever one you want. So double clicking on that will open it up. I will always have this open because we can easily refresh it when we change the coding. So for example, if I go over here and say Apple website, and this paragraph, let's say the new iPhone 15 Pro is out now. And if I save this and go over and refresh the page, and there it is, it's changed. Okay, cool. So let's move on. Let's have a look at a couple of new things. So instead of copying and pasting, we're actually going to write the code now. So our HTML document is set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in another heading level. So let's open this up and let's put in another heading. So you can do another H1, so that's your highest level heading, but I'm going to go to H2, so that's a subheading. And I'm just going to write in iPhone event. And what we'll do, we'll write another paragraph here. And you can see, and this is another reason why we downloaded Visual Studio Code, is because it will close the tags for us. And you can notice to close a tag, you have a forward slash and then the same tag, and that's how you close it. So if I want to write something in this paragraph, it has to be between these two tags. So let's write the iPhone event will finish streaming now. Okay, let's save this again and refresh this page, and there it is there. Okay, cool. All right, let's have a look at a couple of different things. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just add an image on the page. Okay, so straight after the P tag, what we're going to do is making sure that we're still within the body tags, we're going to add in an image. So to add in an image, the tag for that is IMG. Okay, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be searching for an image, and the location of that image is in our images folder. So we write images, okay, you can see it's found the folder, and we do forward slash, and we're just going to basically write the image we want. So let's go with let's just stick with the Apple logo for now. Okay. Now, we haven't finished, so we have to actually close off this tag. So let's close it off. And there is a couple of other things we should do. For example, we should specify how big we want this to be and things like that. But for now, let's just save this and let's refresh this page. And there's the Apple logo. Now, the Apple logo may be too big, too small. So what we want to do is go in here and also add in some more code within this. So we're going to set the width of this image, and we can set it to, let's go 100 pixels. And we can also set the height if we want, or you can leave the height and it will just set it automatically based on what width you've put in there. So let's have a look. And there it is. If I wanted the height to be something ridiculous, for example, 200 pixels, then it'll stretch it out. Okay. Let's do a couple other things. So I'll just get rid of that for now. If we didn't want the width to be pixels, but we wanted it to be a percentage of the page, for example, we want it to be 100% of the width of the actual page, we can actually do that as well. So instead of specifying pixels, we can specify a percentage, and you'll see that it'll stretch with the page as you go back and forth, which is pretty cool too. I'll just go back to px or pixels, and let's save that. Excellent. Now, the next couple of things that we'll have a look at is how to do links. So to do a link, we use a tag. So this is an a tag, and there it is closed off. Now, with a link, typically you have something to click on, and then that will be a link somewhere else. For example, you might have some writing here, and let's say this is going to be a Google link. So I put in the text Google link, and I'll just save this for now and refresh the page. And there you see Google link. It's not actually a link yet because I haven't done anything with the A tag just yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this part of the A tag, and I'm going to put in my hyperlink reference, the link. So I'm going to put in a href equals, and let's just make it go to Google. So we're going to make it go to google.com. I should put www.google.com. And let's also, actually, let's just see what that does first, just so you guys can see the difference. So I'll refresh this. There's the link there. And if I click on it, it'll take me to Google. What I want to do, however, is when I click on it, it opens in a new tab. So there are things that we can do, and we can continue to add code. For example, the target. So where is it going to go once you click on that? So where do I want it to go? I want it to go to a blank page. So we're going to go blank. So underscore blank. And let's save that again, and let's refresh the page. And now when I open it up, you'll actually see it's going to open in a new tab. And there it is. Okay, so let's now start combining some of these tags. Okay, so to get our head around how the tags are working, let's open up the body a little bit. And also, another thing to remember is when your browser reads your code, it just reads it from the top down, and it doesn't care if you've got space. Okay, it doesn't care if you've got space between the tags and things like that. So just making sure that your tag is open and closed. If you don't close your tag, for example, if I remove this P tag here and I put it over here by accident, it's going to treat this as one paragraph. Okay, so that is probably going to cause you issues later on. So that's really, really important to note, to make sure you have an opening and closing tag all the time. Okay, just make sure you've got that. All right, let's have a look at what we're going to do to combine this. So let's go into this second paragraph here, and we might just add another sentence, and we can say, if you Google iPhone 15 Pro event, you will be taken to our new website. Try using Google here. Now, I want to add this Google link into that paragraph. So let me just save this real quickly. So I want to actually put this link within this paragraph. Okay, so it says try using Google here. So maybe I want to make this part of the paragraph a link to Google. So what we're going to do is, actually, I might just drop that down just so we can see it a little bit better. There we go. And I'll zoom back in so we can see. So this part here, I wanted to make a link. Now I'm just going to use the same thing we have here. So on the opposite sides of this text here, I want to put in an A code. And I need to transfer this A code here. So I'll cut that out. I'll paste it on this side. So right now, this is an A code for this text. I haven't referenced anything yet. So let's put in the reference code. And I'll put the URL in. And we'll also do target equals blank, so it opens in a new. Excellent. And what I might do is just delete this link. And let's zoom out. Let's see what that code looks like in full. Okay, so the iPhone event will finish starting now. Okay, let's hit save on this, and let's see what it looks like on the website. Cool. So there it is there. We've got our link within the paragraph, which is fantastic. And does it work? Yes, it does. Okay. Now, you might have seen that I went into my writing my paragraph here, and I hit enter on my keyboard, and I saved it. But when I go on the website, it doesn't put that down onto a new line. Now remember, HTML reads from the top of the document to the bottom of the document. It does not care if you've got spaces in between your headings and stuff. Okay, so in order to actually put this onto a new line, you have to use code for that. So for example, after this first line and before this one here, okay, let's pretend that this was up here. If you wanted this to actually be on the next line on your website, you need to add some code here in between these two pieces of writing. So the code is called a line break. And to do that, you open your tag, you put a forward space, BR, and close the tag. Now this is called a line break, and you can copy this, and I'll just show you what it does first. Let's have a look on the actual screen itself, and I'll refresh it, and there you go. It's actually just popped that line there. Now, if I added in multiple line breaks, you'll see it's added multiple lines in between that text. So if you want to actually break your text apart and add line breaks, you can do that. So I can add in a few line breaks here. I can even add in line breaks in between this logo and the paragraph above. So right here, the paragraph ends, and right here, the image starts. So maybe between those two pieces of code, I put in a couple of line breaks to add some space. So let's save this and refresh this page. And there it is there. I've now got each of those sentences on its own line. So the first thing we're going to do before we have a look at experimenting with the HTML is we're going to go over to our heading, and we need to connect our style sheet to this HTML document. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up the header tag, just create some space between the opening tag and the closing tag right here, and we're going to connect our style sheet. Let's go in here, and we're going to add in our first link. So opening tag, and we're going to type in link, and there is a reference, and the reference is, it's a style sheet. Now it's going to be asking us, we're going to be telling it where the hyperlink reference is, because a style sheet you can also get from online, so people can provide style sheets for you. So you could put in like a URL in there, but because our style sheet is within the folder, we are just going to be going and referencing style.css, because that's what we called our CSS file. If you called it something different, then that's what you need to put in here. All right, we're going to close the tag, and let's hit file save on that. Now, nothing's going to change on our website because we haven't actually put any coding in the CSS page just yet. Okay. Now, let's actually go and put something in here. So the first thing that some people might want to do is, for example, change the background color of the website. So at the moment, our background color is white. Let's go ahead and change that. Now, remember, your whole website is within two tags. They're called the body tags. Everything that you put within these body tags will show up on the website. So if you want to change the look of your website, it's typically one of these tags that you're going to be manipulating in your CSS. The first tag we're going to be manipulating is the body tag. So let's open up the body, and you're going to be using this bracket. And I'll just zoom in so you guys can see. Now, on my Mac, it is holding the shift button down and pressing the key next to the letter P. So holding shift and pressing that will open up your curly brackets. Okay, so it is not this bracket. Okay, it is the curly one like that. Now I'm going to open this up so we can write some code. Everything that goes in between these two brackets is going to be affecting the body of our website. The first thing that I want to actually put in here is background color. So let's start with background color. We'll have a look at other things later, like putting in an image as your background and things like that. But let's just put in background color, and you can type in gray, green. You can even put in codes if you want. Okay, so if you know what the the code of your color is, you can do that. So if you wanted to get it from Photoshop, you can do that. But the good thing about VS Code is you can also just select it. So you can type in whatever you want. So I could type in, light blue, and it will do that. So if we save this CSS code, making sure that you've also saved your index.html, let's go over and refresh your website. You can see that we can easily change the color, and the color comes across on this side, which is good. Now let's do a couple of other things. So we're going to, in our CSS, also manipulate our heading. Okay, so we've got a heading level 1 here, a heading level 2, we've also got a paragraph, and we have links. So we're going to have a look at how to manipulate all of those things. So let's start off with our heading, okay, so our H1. So what we're going to do is we're going to go H1, and we're going to hit the little curly bracket and create a gap in there. And let's change a few things. Let's change the font family, and let's change let's see what they have. Let's go with Times New Roman, and we'll also change the font size, and let's go with something really big, or not that big, maybe 100 pixels. So 100 pixels. Let's also change the font color. Font color, actually it might just be color. Let's pop that in, and it is American spelling, so something you need to get used to is that. So we'll change the color to white. So let's do that. And let's see what it looks like. So let's hit save on that, and let's refresh this page. There we go. Apple website. Awesome. That's so good. Another thing we might do with the H1 block, you'll see that everything is pinned to the left side of our website. What we're going to do is we're going to use CSS to also align the text. So we're going to go text align, and we're going to center it. So let's save that. I'm just hitting Command S to save. Go over here, hit Command R to refresh, and there you go. It's actually aligned the text to the middle of our website now, which is pretty cool. So we did that for our H1 block, which is really, really good. So CSS is a great way of styling all of your headings. So if you had another H1 block, let's pretend we had another heading down here after our logo, and I'll just copy that, and I just pasted it here. And let's hit save on that. Oops. In our HTML document. If I go back to our website and I refresh it, you'll see another heading's popped up. Okay, and if I change the heading, I might go in there and just write another heading. Let's save that. And there it is. Now, if you had a couple of heading level 1s, but you wanted them to look different on your website, you can do that as well. Now, the way to do that is by giving the other heading a class. So, for example, I would go in here where it says H1, and I would assign a class to this. So I could call this, H1 version 2. You can name it whatever you want. And what I would then do is go over to my CSS and I would create a new um, criteria for that type of heading. Now, when you define a class, instead of picking H1, you have to actually write the class in here. So I'm going to put a full stop and I'm going to write H1 version 2, which is what I wrote on the class in the HTML document. I'm going to open up the curly brackets again. And this time what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to copy this code from H1 here and I'm just going to paste it in here. But this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it. So I'm going to make, let's make the font for this smaller. Maybe we'll make it 70 pixels. Let's change the font to anything else. And we'll change the color as well. Let's make it, let's make it black. Okay. Let's save this. And making sure our index.html is also saved. Let's refresh this page and there you go. Okay, so another heading, different color, different font, size, and so on. Okay, now I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to delete this code. But I just wanted to show you how you could differentiate your website if you wanted to. Okay, I'll get rid of that second heading as well. Okay, let's have a look at the second heading and paragraph and also your link. So let's do this H2. Let's try and do this as quickly as possible. So I'm going to open that up. I'm also going to do a paragraph. So P, open that up. And to do links, do you remember what tag we used? So H-link, H1 and H2, they're for headings. P was used for paragraphs. What opening tag did we use for creating a link? Now, if you don't remember, you can go back to your HTML page and it is an A link. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go A and we're going to open that up as well. Okay, cool. So what I'd like you to do is just style those 3 things. Now, a lot of people style links, and that's because they don't like the purple and the underline and stuff like that. So what you'd want to do is actually remove some of the decoration on that. So we'll do that in a little bit, but let's start with H2. So I might just copy some of the stuff we had here, make this a little bit smaller. Maybe we'll make it 60 pixels. We could even go with a different color, maybe like off-white or something like that. You pick the color that you want. Text align centered, cool. We'll also do the same thing for the paragraph. Cool, let's save that and let's have a look. Okay, there it is, starting to look pretty good. And we can actually see that our website is centered, so that's great. Now with the link, there are different states to a link. So a URL typically has an active state. So in case you are navigating to a particular page, it also has a hover over state. So if you move your mouse over it, does it change states? And so if you've clicked on it, it'll also change that state as well. So these are all things that you want to actually change. You don't want to just change how the link looks or as is. You want to change all the different states. Now, what we're going to do with the A link is we're actually going to add in all the states. So the first state is how it looks when it's just a link. And we're going to put some code in here. Now, probably the most important code that I would say is getting rid of the underline and the hyperlink look, that purple look, and that's called text decoration. Now, when we do text decoration, you can add your own decoration if you want, but typically what people like to do is just go with none. So I'm just going to copy this code real quickly. Actually, let's keep going with it a little bit. Let's maybe copy some of the colors and the alignment and stuff like that from here. Paste it in here. Cool, that looks good. Let's copy this code now. And we're going to add the other states of the link. So, okay. So we've done a link. The next one's going to be after you've clicked on it, what does it look like? So visited. The one after that is going to be the hover over. So when you move your mouse over it. And the last one is going to be when it's active. So that won't matter too much with a link like that in a paragraph, but typically if you have a navigation bar and you've got 5 different pages, when you've clicked on a particular page, you might want it to look different, maybe change the color so people know they're on that page. So this is the active link. So right now I've changed all of it to be the same. So let's just see what that looks like. Let's hit save on that. And I'll go over here to my website and I'll refresh it. And here you go. You can actually see the link has removed all of the decoration and it's made the font color, size, font family, Times New Roman, all the same as the paragraph. Now, are people going to know that this is a link? They probably won't because it looks so similar to the actual website. So what you probably want to do is change it a little bit so that people do know it is a website. So maybe we go in here and we, you know, make it green or something like that. Okay. So we've changed the color of the link. So we've changed it when it's active, we've changed it when people have visited that link, and we've changed it what it looks like by default to green. And we've also changed how it looks when you hover over it to black. And it's completely up to you what you want to do with that. So if you wanted it to look more like a link, you could even do more things to this. So we could make it maybe a little bit smaller or larger or something like that, just so it stands out a little bit differently. Completely up to you. You can also do something like this where you change all the states except the hover over, and that way when you are doing something like this, it kind of does your rollover state as well. That's pretty cool. That's probably a bit too dramatic. Let's go to like 24 pixels when you hover over. Maybe that'll look a bit better. There you go. That's a little bit better. It's probably still a bit too dramatic, but that's a good way of doing it as well. So right now we have created a HTML document. We've added in paragraphs. We've added in a link. We've even got an image in there. And we also created a style sheet and we have started to style this website. Now, one of the things that you'll probably notice is our logo isn't centered. So maybe we want to do that as well. So let's do that before we go and add in a background image or something like that. So remember our image is right here. So let's zoom into that and let's have a look. Now, also remember that one of the things to create a style for is going into your style sheet, and you can go and add in some code here So for example, I could add in an image code and specify something to happen to all of my images on the website. Now, the problem with using the image code is if I've got 20 images on my website, everything I put into the style code here is going to affect all of my images. Okay, so that could be an issue. Now, if you just want to do it for this image, remember the way we do that is by giving it a class. So we say class equals, whoops, let me go back here. Class equals, and we'll call it Apple logo. Okay, so you can call it whatever you like. I'm going to call it Apple logo. And then I go over to my style sheet, and in here, instead of writing image, I can write dot Apple logo. And we can do things like a text align, center, and that should keep it aligned for us. Nope, that's not working. Maybe we need to add in some margins. Okay, so text align might only work for text, but it's good that we've put it in there anyways. So let's add in a margin on the left, and we'll set it to automatic, and we'll set a margin on the right, and we'll set it to automatic. So that, okay, so we're back. Now, I was trying to get this logo centered, and what I ended up doing was creating a margin left and setting it to automatic, and margin right and setting it to automatic, so that the margin on the left and right will basically make sure that they're always even, which would then push it to the middle of the page. Now, I put this code in and it wasn't working. You can see it's still left a line there. Now, I was wondering why it did that. So I went over here and tried to see, did I mess up my class or something like that? And that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. What it was I was actually missing some code. So I went over to W3 schools and I found that it was the display style that I was looking for. So display as a block. And adding in that code there with the margins on auto, if I refresh it, and there you go, our logo is also centered now, which is good. Okay, perfect. So I want to show you guys one more thing. We're going to head back over to the index.html page. Now on this page, what we're going to do is make this image a link as well. Okay, some people would like it so that it's not just a text that's linked, but also an image. So if we go over to our image, this is our Apple logo, and we've set the width to 100 pixels. Oh, by the way, if you wanted to, you could actually, because this is styling, you could cut that out. So you can get rid of that. And you can actually add that in your CSS for the Apple logo. So you could pop that in here if you want. So you could say width equals 100 pixels. Okay, so styling should all go into the CSS sheet. Okay, now we know that creating a link is done with the A tag. So on either side of this image, what we should do is create an opening A tag with a reference to the website. Maybe we're going to Apple's website for this one. And let's close that A tag. Now it's closed the A tag straight after it. We don't want it to go straight after it. We want it to go at the end of the image, because what that will do is, and I'll just separate it so we can see, this is the opening tag of the A tag. There's the closing tag of the A tag. Anything in the middle is going to be a link. So remember, here was the opening tag of our A tag here. And here was the closing A tag. and anything in the middle was going to be a link. Okay, so we've got our image, and we've got a link A tag and a closing linked A tag here. That's going to apple.com. So let's just see if that works. So I'm going to hit save on that. Let's go over. Let's also make sure we save the CSS page as well. See the little dot there was telling me it wasn't saved. Now let's refresh this page. And there's my link. So if I click on it, it's going to take me to Apple's website. Perfect. One thing that we didn't do was set it so that it opened on a blank page. So we can do that here as well inside the first opening A tag, and we can say target equals blank. Okay, perfect. Let's hit save on that. Done. Okay, well, look, guys, this is the first tutorial, and it was just for you guys to experiment, get your documents up and running, have the HTML page and have your CSS page. Now, while you are waiting for next lesson or the next tutorial, what I would like you to do is head over to W3 Schools and open it up and have a look at the different types of things that you can do in terms of HTML coding. Have a look, click onto the CSS and have a look at the different types of coding you can do for CSS. The really cool thing about W3 Schools is when you do click on something, for example, if you click on HTML paragraphs, you can click on try it yourself. And what that will do is it will allow you to actually manipulate the coding and see what happens here as well. So for example, if you change this paragraph and hit the run button, we'll show you what that would look like on your website as well, just like we've been doing ourselves. So have a look through that. It's going to be really, really cool. You might get some really good ideas that we can implement into your website as we're building it. The next couple of things we are going to be doing is we're going to be creating tables. So if you want to have a look at this now before the next tutorial, jump on board now, and we are going to be creating tables. And tables may not look fun, okay, because, well, okay, what are we doing? We're just creating a table. But what we're going to be doing is, after we learn how tables works, is we're going to be creating that iPhone that I showed you guys. So let's have a quick look at our website. Let's go here. So this is all in a table. So that's one row with 4 columns. And instead of having text in the table, we've put images in there with links. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing next in the next one, in the next tutorial. Okay, well, I'll see you guys then. If you have finished this tutorial, you'll probably find the second tutorial is already up and you could probably jump straight into that one.